from Hollywood, this is Harrison.
Harris with you. This is, of course, Go Harrison. We're coming to you live on WCOBM, as well as on KPFK 90.7 FM in Los Angeles, 98.7 FM in San Diego, 93.3 in Central California, 99.5 in other parts of the state of California, as well as the Progressive Radio Network. What if you found out that your presidential candidate and the vice presidential candidate wanted to undo everything that might be called progress in the last half century? And we're talking really about Mike Pence, the VP pick currently of Donald Trump. We have with us right now Rick Zbur, Zbur. Is that more appropriate? I think so. Is that the German way? And he's with Equality California. They're one of the big organizations responsible, really, for helping us get Proposition 8 passed and other things to allow marriage equality in California, one of the biggest states in the nation that then went state by state by state to the Supreme Court and changed the law of the land. And you're now looking at this guy, Mike Pence from Indiana, the former governor. A lot of people are like, well, who is this guy? We saw on TV the other day, he said, I am a Christian first. Yeah. And then a human, and then, I pet my dog third. So he kind of says where he's, whatever that means. Yeah. It's not like my grandmother, a Christian, where she recycles, and he means something else, doesn't he?
No, I mean, this guy really is probably the most anti-LGBT vice presidential pick that could have been chosen on the Republican side. I mean, this guy, a lot of the Republicans are against LGBT equality and social justice, but this guy takes it to a really different level. I mean, he's about as bad a pick as Donald Trump could have chosen from our perspective.
Well, it says a lot about Donald Trump, I think. It's like Hillary picking Kane, for instance, who, is likable enough, but he loves Wall Street. And she gets in trouble for loving Wall Street, so instead you have your co-host love Wall Street. And this way, Trump has his co-host doing the dirty work. And Trump can just say, I love everybody. I love everybody. Hey, I love everybody.
Well, yeah, he sort of says that on one side, but I mean, it's pretty consistent with a campaign that's been based on hate and bias. I mean, it just sort of filled out the list. He's been anti-immigrant, anti-Muslim, anti-women, anti pretty much everything else. Right. So I mean, it was not surprising that he added, probably the most anti-LGBT person to the slate. So I mean, he just rounded out his campaign of hate by adding the LGBT community as one of his targets.
Rick Zbur with Equality California. They're really the biggest, I think, of all.
We're the largest statewide LGBT civil rights organization in the country. So we're actually, in terms of membership, we're the second largest. We have about 800,000 members throughout the state of California and in other parts of the country.
And great T-shirts.
Well, we do have good T-shirts. So, yeah.
So let's take a look at, and I love this stuff because you guys must talk about it at your office in the background. I'm always fascinated. Anybody who's rabidly homophobic, there's something going on. And I'm just going to give an example. We have a grocery store chain here called Ralph's. I know you probably wouldn't go to a place called Ralph's where you live, but it's normal here, right? Mm-hmm. Now, if I walked in and I walked by the frozen food section and I saw okra, do you know what okra is?
Yeah.
I don't care for okra. I just don't care. Some people love it. I don't care for it. And I pulled out a ball-peen hammer, smashed the glass in the freezer door. The okra bags came out, and then I was jumping up and down on the okra bags, screaming and yelling. A psychiatrist might say that I have a personal issue with okra. So if there's a legislator so rabidly homophobic, what's that connection? How do you have that much of an expertise over LGBT if you are so not LGBT? How does that work, I wonder?
Yeah, well, I don't know about Mike Pence, but I mean, what he's done over the course of his career, as I said, is sort of taken his anti-LGBT, rhetoric and hate to sort of a very different level. I mean, this guy was someone who opposed the Matthew Shepard's hate crimes bill because he said it presented a radical gay agenda. I mean, to him, killing and beating up LGBT people and having protections against that, to him, is radical.
Right.
This isn't just about opposing marriage equality, although in Indiana, he supported a law that would have basically allowed jailing LGBT people, not only LGBT people, but LGBT people for seeking marriage licenses, and clerks for issuing them. So, you know,
we laugh only because it's crazy sounding, but it's true.
He wanted to cut HIV prevention funding in the state of Indiana and move it all over to fund conversion therapy. That's
to turn gay people into straight, allegedly turn them into straight people, poof or poof.
Right. Which has been outlawed for kids in the state of California. It's been found by all of the psychological and psychiatric organizations to be harmful to kids, and that's something that we worked on a bill here in Equality California that was the first in the country to do that, and it's been adopted in a number of other states. But he wanted to basically take funding away from HIV prevention and fund conversion therapy in the state of Indiana.
So this is Donald Trump's co-host, Mike Pence, governor of Indiana. We're talking about what this could look like in the future as it unrolls, and also noting that one of the things Equality California does is you talk a lot about bullying, and that it's bad. So here we have bullying is bad in schools, bullying is bad on the streets, bullying is bad in the workplace, but in politics, if you're running for, the president of the United States and vice president, bullying is swell. And that seems to be an interesting proposition, doesn't it? At the very top, it's okay, but for the rest of us down here, it's really bad.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Trump candidacy has been about bullying and hate mongering and name calling, and I've just been really sort of looking at the Democratic convention this week, especially the last night and the night before. I mean, we really sort of see a real difference in terms of what the Democrats represent.
Finally, right?
Right, and what both parts of that party, both the Bernie Sanders supporters and the Hillary Clinton supporters, who we see sort of coming together, I think understanding really how terrible it would be. I mean, we would be rolling back all kinds of progress that we've made, not only from a legislative perspective, but really all of the significant gains that President Obama and Secretary Clinton advanced when she was at the State Department through executive orders that banned discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity, the things that have happened in the Army.
Even LBJ. I mean, let's go back to the 60s. That goes away, too. Trump and Pence are talking about a Supreme Court justice who will basically put us back into the Stone Age, a place where Donald Trump apparently has the greatest comfort. This is a threat, not just to LGBT, but, I mean, all of us are Q in some way. I think most humans, if asked honestly, do you check a box that says other?
Yeah. Well, also, it's not just LGBT, it's the whole... a whole range of things that affects social justice for LGBT people, but also the communities that we're part of. I mean, one of the things that we're very focused on at Equality California is really addressing all these disparities that our community faces. Low income levels, high rates of bullying, low rates of health care, almost all the indicia of community health, the LGBT community scores low on. It's really, I think, there's this mistaken view out in the broader community that LGBT people are all white and affluent and drive, have great gym memberships, have Equinox memberships and BMWs, and women are.
That's the gay lifestyle that everyone wants, isn't it?
But the reality is that that from an economic standpoint, from a violence standpoint, from a health standpoint, we score very low. And if you're LGBT and a member of a community of color, or you're undocumented, or you're transgender, people in our community that are both LGBT and one of those other characteristics are really the most marginalized members of the broader community. And that's really what we're focused on. So, Donald Trump gets elected. Clearly, the executive orders that allow us to bring in immigrants into the full life of our community, those which have been held up in the courts, but there's not going to be any progress on that. I mean, we've got 250,000 LGBT undocumented people who, can't get into the Affordable Care Act, can't get their HIV medications covered. I mean, this has real impacts on the lives of real people.
Wow. Thank you so much. That's Rick Zbur. He is with Equality California, the executive director. Harrison with you. Hang on, more to come.